Hello and welcome to the second episode of Chrome. So just to remind you, if you haven't seen anything else from the series, Chrome is kind of like a term used to describe very pretty components, a neat gimmick, something that adds to the theme of a board game, but that doesn't really affect the mechanics of the game or the mechanisms of the game, excuse me. So this is the second episode, and I will remind you again that I'm not an artist or a carpenter, but I do have a lot of enthusiasm for games, and the reason I'm doing this series is so that, maybe I'll entertain or inspire somebody, and also I get to kind of, in this day and age with the connectivity we have, I get to, be able to show people that really have an interest in this sort of thing. As with the last episode and in the next couple episodes, we're going to look at some small ways to improve games, and some medium ways to improve games, and then the big shiny Chrome ways to do things. So without further ado, here's a cat and part 2. Okay, so starting things off, we're going to be taking a look at maybe my favorite game, maybe my top 3, maybe my top 5. I haven't really, done that in a while, but it's definitely up there as one of my favorite games when you count it with its expansion, and that is Ghost Stories by Antoine Bauza, put out by Repos or Asmodee. I love this designer; he's phenomenal. I love this game. I didn't do a full, huge thing, but I did something close to that. I did upgrade some of the components. So the game comes with tiles. As I said before, I don't really review the games here, but I'm assuming that you're familiar with them. But there are you have a grid of 9 tiles, and what I did is just to upgrade those tiles. So let's take a look. Okay, so here are the upgraded tiles for Ghost Stories. So it's just it's the whole kind of thing in general. These brown spots on the corners is where you would put your guy. You're moving around the board, etc. That's just kind of the whole thing. I just showed you that quick, and I'll just do a close up, and you can get a better sense of each individual tile. So that's the whole kit and caboodle. So now we'll take a closer look. Okay, so here's the pavilion of the Heavenly Winds, I believe that's the name of the tile, this is so this is definitely the laziest of the ones that I've done so far, because most of this stuff I kind of bought and acquired and usurped for this purpose. This was a part for an aquarium, and I just happened to find it and thought it would be great for this project. I put a couple little rocks, trees. What I do is I I just kind of brushed the whole thing with one tone of green, and then I used some other tones. Brushed them on top here and there, and then I sprinkled, some flock on there, and then I just did a little sand over here to give it more of a three-dimensional look. As with all my videos, this is a little duller because of sawdust. If you've seen my other stuff, then you know what that means. So there's the Pavilion of the Fallen Winds. So, that's the one tile here. And next here, up here, we have the Sorcerer's Hut. So you got a little fire for her. I just took a couple of little things and colored them and burned them a little and put a little ash from my own fireplace in there, although you can tell that. I bought these little guys too. Not that this really makes necessarily any sense, or that you can probably notice it. Sorry, this is the Sorcerer's Hut. Just showed that. But these little guys here, I put in all the places that were outside of town. I don't know why, I just kind of felt like, they should have a kind of a linking theme, and the sorcerers, she would definitely live, I think, outside of town. And then I just I put some mud and dirt I streaked on this fabric I got, and I cut out these kind of furs. I hope that they look like furs, maybe not, but that's the kind of look I was going for. So there's the Sorcerer's Hut. Then we have these little buildings I bought. Actually, I'll show you this one. This is the tea house, which is right here. The tea house. I bought these little guys. I was in a Michael's or something, and they had little packets, and I thought, oh, those would look really good for this. And then this one, and actually 3 of the houses were a company, and I cannot remember the name of them right now. If somebody's really excited, and they can put
put some comment on this video, and I'll try to track down what the name of these buildings were. But I just gave them a little paint, and that's the tea house for that's that. Okay, and then the next building, which is again one of those same things, is the Buddhist temple, and I just painted these little guys so they had a spot to put the Buddhas there. So I wish I was gonna do some stairwells, yeah. I was gonna do a stairwell up here and raise this up a little bit because I thought it would look more impressive, because you would go up the stairs. But ultimately, I just decided to leave it as it was because it's very tall and it's blocking the other. Here's that tile, by the way. It's blocking it blocks the view of the other tiles and stuff like that. So I thought that would be just leave it as low as I could, even though it is still the tallest structure. So there's the Buddhist temple. Let's get that out of the way there. And then next we've got, what do we have next here? We'll do the tea house, since that's the third and last of the buildings that I bought specifically for this purpose. I just got to find the herbalist shop, sorry. Okay, I don't actually know where my herbalist shop is. Oh, here it is, the herbalist shop. And so, if you notice, I got these little bottles in the same place I got the little pieces for the tea house. They were just in these little baggies. So the same thing as with these, I got those little bottles, and I just filled them with some random stuff to make it look like there was herbs in there and stuff. I was thinking about putting them inside of the building or in the window or something. I know that doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense outside of it, but I just thought thematically you could see that, and it's harder to see inside the window. So that's the herbalist shop. So that's that for that. And then we'll get these guys out of the way here. And then we've got, actually, just to show you too, real fast, I did paint these guys up, so they got a little more exciting. And then these guys, this is the Circle of Prayer. So I did a little smoke. That's actually a gold bottle cap. I hope that's not instantly recognizable as that. I put a little rocks in there, and again I put some ash from my fireplace, and then I just took a little that stuffing that you can pull. It's hard. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I just did that to make a little smoke. These guys are actually you can find them in any store that sells the stuff for dioramas, etc. They're actually monks. I just painted them orange, and voila. And then this is the spot where you would put for the Circle of Prayer, instead of placing it on, oops, I just felled that tree, I'm so mighty. Instead of putting it there, you put it here. There we go. And just a little bush and a little rock just to give a little more character. Again, I guess I broke that tree. And next we have the wall, the Night Watchman, I think the Night Watchman. And again, since this is outside, I put these little things. I don't know why I just did. I took little toothpicks for this, and I just took an X-Acto knife and sharpened them all. So I did that for every one of these, like I was kind of making vampire steaks or something. And then I just give them a little dry brushing there. I brushed them. I painted them all brown and then dry brushed them a little to give them a little more character there, little chips and things out of there or whatever. And then I put a little road, if you can see the little road back here, because this is the road when you're in town. You're walking through. Hey, I'm walking through town or whatever, but hey, I'm up on this wall and I'm looking out. Who's out there? Okay, really brought that to life, I hope, for you with that. Okay, so that's the Night Watchman. And then we've got the Taoist altar. This is the best I could do for, I was kind of having trouble with the Taoist altar because this isn't strictly, isn't strictly to this. I hope this is not offensive to anybody in any way, but this is, the best I could do to make this, something like that. So I actually got a cat hair right here, bad cat. And so little steps up there. I try to add a little mud there, to make it look like people were traveling up and down. And so that's the Taoist altar. And then lastly, actually almost lastly, we have the graveyard, which There we go. There's a graveyard. I took these little branches that are you're supposed to make trees out of. I guess you make trees out of them for railroads or dioramas or whatever. Again, this is outside of town, so I put these little guys. And I put these little headstones. I painted them, and then I put a black wash, if anybody knows about painting, on them to try to bring out some of those details. And then I gave this big scary tree, because obviously it's a graveyard, you need a big scary tree. And then for the one of the little expansion tiles, which is the guardhouse, I did a different little wall. See this one? You'd be walking into town, and I'll talk about why I didn't do a little box for him here, because I was going to. But this is a texturized wall. I just cut this. It's a pattern. Maybe you can see that or not. I don't know. That there is a like a stony, bricky pattern. I don't know if you can see that, but and then this is again, haha, I'm watching the outside of the wall there. But this guy would be standing here watching if you were really the guardsman. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so hindsight, future sight. There's a few of them on this project. Number one, you may notice there is a curving on these. If you can see, like, there's space under there. I've since making this, I've learned if you're going to do something like this, I didn't realize that the paint would curve it so much, which seems like kind of obvious, but now I realize just from some wargaming, tips and things that they do, like unbelievable stuff. A lot of wargamers do. So you take something like this or foam core or whatever you're using, and just glue it down to a piece of harder masonite or wood or whatever you're going to use, and then you can do anything to it and it won't warp. So right off the bat, what I should have done is glued them down to some kind of wood so they won't curve like that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, like these buildings actually came with little windows, transparent pieces, and then like a actual window frame. And so what I wanted to do was paint, like for this one, for the tea house, to paint it yellow and then put it on so it would show up real nice on there. I can't find them, so that's I have no idea what I did with them, but they're gone somewhere. Maybe I'll find them at some point. So that's the second thing I would have done a little differently. Okay, so I really wanted to do the dojo also, as the game with White Moon is maybe my favorite game. I'm not sure now. I've played so many games since I kind of felt that way, but it's definitely in my top games. So I really wanted to do the dojo and a few other buildings, and I ended up getting like these because the slants on these roofs and the arches here, the architecture is very, very awesome, and it's just really hard to do that. I mean, I tried. This was my original Pavilion of the Winds. I got these as a banister pieces, so it has that slope, and I tried to glue them together and make something, and then kind of tie these. So, that didn't really work out too well. So it's very difficult to do buildings, with such crazy architecture. So I couldn't really do that. So, I tried making a dojo with kind of the where you could kind of see into it. What I really would have loved to do. This is something that would be a lot more, but I really wanted to do light up buildings. I really wanted to put some lights in them so that they would be really feel like a village and have like a creepier feel. And in addition to that, like maybe flip have on the other side, have like the villains, so when you have a haunted tile, you could flip it. That's something I really wanted to do, but that's a whole nother thing. So maybe in the future I'll do that because I do really love this game, and so maybe I will try that. Oh, and the other one I was going to tell you about was this one here too. The reason I was going to do a little box here and have a little guard, and the reason actually, the one thing I would love to do is to put actual people, like I have these guys here, I would have loved to have had, like because you have the personalities on these, all the villagers on here, and it would have been nice to have been able to, I mean, this tile I did, the circle of hair I did, but I would have liked to have had the rest of the villagers with their corresponding buildings, but I couldn't really find. It's very difficult to find minis, that would have fit these purposes. I might have been able to find a sorceress. She would have not have looked like this. She would have been more scantily clad, as it seems to be most of the miniatures. It seemed to be made. I think I found one. A Reaper. Reaper makes, if you're going to do something like this or something similar, Reaper miniatures. I found that they make a ton of just generic sort of miniatures, but they really, I could find some, but I couldn't find enough to do everything. So if you can't do everything, you can't do anything. I mean, I did that one off. That's okay, but so that's something else I would really like to do. So light up buildings, actual villagers. I would like to have avoided that kind of arch, And I wish I could have found my windows, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the whole way it came out. So hopefully that'll inspire you to do something similar, or or maybe the same. I don't know. Okay. So, everybody's kind of experienced this where you open a game box up and you're like, hey, I get dibs on this color, or what color is there? And it's nice when I guess if you are the type of person like my friend Kat, she's always green. Nobody questions it, and almost every game has green. So it's very easy for her because she just says, you just hand the green pieces to Kat because she's going to be green. But I like purple. That's my favorite color. My wife's favorite color is silver. Almost no game has silver. Every now and again you get lucky and get one that has purple. So what I did was I pulled all the pieces out of my games. So every game I pulled 2 sets, and I usually took yellow and blue because they were seemed easiest to me to do that. And I spray painted them all. And I created purple for every game and silver for every game. So now there's no question. So we take a look down here. I just pulled a few of them. I'm not going to empty every component I own out, and just to give you kind of an idea of a few different things. So you can do basically anything, even an abstract game or something that you wouldn't think you could be able to. So I'll take this for instance. So this is Alien Frontiers. If you recognize the pieces, you might think, oh, you can't do that because they got these little plastic shells, right? Well, you can just pop them off. Maybe you could, maybe you can't now. I don't know. Okay, so I just popped these off somehow and painted them, and then I popped those things back on. So even something that you don't think, hey, I could do that, you can, because they come off. So I did that, and I'll talk about the dice in a second. So those I did. Even a little game like this is Targi right here. This is a great game. I painted that purple and silver, and the reason I pulled this out to highlight is to mention the fact that see, this is the robber in there. Actually, I don't know if you can see him because he's in he's on a red table, but I think he was like a silvery color, or maybe he was like a gray. And so sometimes if you're going to do this and there's going to be an oddball pawn or something that is not player controlled or is sometimes player controlled, and so you'll have to I spray painted him red because he had to be differentiated between the silver pawns. I'm just going to jump back real fast actually because I forgot. The reason I left this little box out is because this box here is just to say the only thing is that when you do this, sometimes like these, if you have these boxes, I put the gray and the silver and then I have to put purple in here. So if you do this, you kind of have to live with stuff like this not matching. That's just one little thing I just wanted to point out. But hey, you get your purple pieces here. This is Caverna. Like, I just wanted to show that you can do little houses, and you can do discs. They're pretty easy to do. I also wanted to show relic runners because I just wanted to give you a variety of showing you that these pieces were all these plastic. The only thing is with these, you got to flip them over and kind of spray inside there, so it's a little more of a pain in the butt. But I think they came out. They came out looking pretty good. One thing I do want to mention though is just while I'm thinking of it is when you spray paint these silver. I use these little tiny. They're small cans of like craft spray paint, and the silver went on great. It seemed to just go on beautifully. I don't know if this is the way it's made. The purple sometimes tends to pool up. I don't know what it is, but it's not as it doesn't seem to be as good a color. So maybe just spray a little, just slow and steady wins the race type thing, instead of the way I did it. Because I did it in a big bunch, and I'll show you a picture of that in a second. And then I want to show you this, even if it's got a game with boats, like I painted this purple, this is regatta, and silver. So even if it has something, these are actually probably the easiest because I didn't spray paint these, I just painted them on. And that was pretty easy, and it's kind of fun to do stuff like that because it's nice and easy. Then this is, I know this is like a minuscule amount of pieces, but I wanted to show you, I don't care how many pieces were in the thing. If I had any pieces, they're going to be, purple and silver. Although you may have to co-opt another person's piece, as I think I did in this one for Lewis and Clark. I'm sorry I didn't mention that game. And then sometimes you're going to have to paint, like this started out yellow. You're going to have to paint, hopefully do a better job than I did. Paint some of these as well. Some of the oddball little markers and things. So that's Lewis and Clark. And then over here, this is just like even as simple as these little discs for Lords of Vegas, and chips. It didn't matter what it was. If I got pieces, I did them. So those didn't come out that great. I do want to mention something about the dice. As I said before, you'll notice what I did was originally, because I didn't want to. Now you can buy cubes. I didn't have to do this. I could have bought bags and bags of cubes for nothing. but I didn't want to be wasteful, so I just sprayed them. But the thing is with dice, I did originally spray paint the dice that came with each of these games. If they used them like Alien Frontiers uses dice. And what happens is the pips themselves, you know, they get painted as well. And I tried a few different things. I tried to get a little pen to draw in, you know, white in the pips, but it came out very bad. In the you know, I did kind of figure out a way. You can ball up little pieces. This is really nitpicky, but you can ball up little pieces of clay and stick them in there. You know, tiny little ones, and then spray paint it, and then just take them out, and voila, you got it. But I didn't really learn that trick until afterwards, so I ended up just what I did with, you know, I would buy little things. This thing was like $4. I mean, they're pretty cheap, these little Chesic things or whatever. And so I just bought, and I have some on hand for both purple and silver, so when I get new games, I'll get like 3 or 4 games in. You know, like after I get like 3 or 4 new games, I'll wait until I have a few, and then I'll put them all together on a sheet, and then I'll spray paint them all at once. Actually, we'll cut right now real fast. I'll show you a couple pictures of my spray painting them. So you see, that's when I first did it. I did a whole, I mean, I must have done like 100 games or something. I mean, I don't know. I had a few hundred games at the time, and so what I did was I did them up as a big bunch, and now I just kind of pull. You know, I wait until I get a few games, unless I'm really excited. Now I've also realized that I should kind of try the games that, if it's a game that I haven't played enough, or I'm not sure if I'm really going to like it or to keep it or whatever. Now I try to think, well, maybe I shouldn't paint them. So that's just something to consider too. So that's just kind of a cool thing to do if you like, always want your color. There you go. Or maybe if you have a few, you know, players that you always play with. Like I say, my wife and I are basically like almost. Most of my gaming is just 2 players, so we just did that. I always try to keep like the black or the red. My buddy Dimitri likes to play with that, and then I thought, you know, I should do green. If my friend Kat, who is away, comes back, I'll be able to paint. Maybe I should paint the other pieces green for her if there aren't green. So I kind of thought I'd maybe get a little more crazy with that, but that's something in the future. But hopefully, if this is something that interests you, or you have a similar plight, you know, hey, there's a solution. Okay, so here's the big shiny chrome version of a board game where I kind of went all out, and that game is K2, a game about climbing. K2, which is considered to be the second most dangerous mountain to climb outside of Mount Everest. And so, as I say, and I don't really review them here, but I am going to give you a quick look. There are 2 sides to the board. The game board, to remind you, there is the good weather side, the summer, I guess, maybe summer, spring side, and then there's the winter side, or I guess this could possibly, I can't remember now, maybe this is the stormy side, or the stormy side in the calm side, although you do have weather, so I think I might have been right the first time. Anyway, but just to remind you, the board has all of these spots on here where you're going to go, you know, enter into, so they're kind of linked, and these are just showing you spots where you will be moving through the board, and I guess there would be ledges or whatever, and they're just kind of connected that way, so the board starts, you know. And so I tried to get a big 3D version of this, so let's take a look. Okay, so here is the mountain of K2. It is not an actual representation of K2 because it has to function as a board game, so it's just kind of a mountain that happens to, you know, have the actual layout of the board as the board itself. So snowy, rocky, you kind of can see that. I have a few things. So firstly, the ropes will lead you to show you where you can go. So, you know, if you're on this spot here, you know you can go to here or to up to here, and if you're here, you can go down or over, or, you know, you can go any of those 3 ways. So you just have to follow the rope, and that shows you where to go. The other thing I want to point out very easily to see, you know, there's your acclimation points and your movement points. So they're right on there. So, you know, if you were on this spot, you would know, oh, I want to come up here, follow this rope up here. I would need the 2, you know, an acclimatization of 2. Excuse me, on movement points of 2. You know, and then if you're on there at the end of the turn, oh, there's my 1 acclimation point there. Okay, so it's pretty easy to, it's very easy, you know, the game is, you know, not that difficult to follow, so it's pretty easy to see that. And the challenge I was talking about before is the, you know, as you get higher and lower, the weather can affect you. And so if you look at these posts, you'll see that this post here, these are purple. You can see that. You get up here, and these are yellow. And then these here are green. and then up the top here, that's that light kind of baby blue. And so that's going to tell you what zone you're in. So you know you're at, I can't remember the actual, how the footage of where you are. I can't remember at the moment. So, but you know, so that's the, you know, the lower altitude, and that's the higher altitude, and higher than that, and then the highest altitude here. And so that the color would just kind of tell you that, oh, we have a casualty right here. So also I want to point out these acclimation points and the movement points. What I did was I bought these little wooden things, I painted them real fast, and then I got a little stamp, like numbered stamps. I hope I can use them for another project because they were kind of pricey for just doing this, but I couldn't really find any good stickers or anything. I'm really have a hard time with that for some reason. So I got these little stamps, and a little stamp pad I had, and I just stamped the numbers on there. And the mountain itself, what I did was, okay, so you're going to notice, you can probably kind of see lines here. I kind of had to do it that way because, you know, I had to have the specific ledges, you know, to be able to walk on, etc. And so what I did was, I glued styrofoam, you know, one after another, and then I, you know, let that dry, and then carved it out with a wire brush, which I don't recommend if you want to stay married, because I cannot believe the mess. I can believe it, I should think about it. But it made such, I mean, it took me like 3 hours to clean up the mess created from styrofoam, because it doesn't, I mean, it clings to everything. If you're going to do this, use that pink, go to like Home Depot or Menards or whatever, and get that, it's like a pink insulation, and use that, because I think that would carve a lot better. I would think, you know, don't quote me on that, you can do your own research, but, and not make the same kind of a mess. So after I carved it, what I did was I kind of glued in some little rocks and things, you know, actual rocks, and then I had some sculpted rocks from you know, you get them for diorama sets. It's like a little mold, and you pour, I can't think of the name of that right now, that it's white, hardens, my God, I can't remember the name, what that's called at the moment. But anyways, I did those. So I kind of put those around in little spots, like up here and stuff. That's what this one is. And then when I had all those kind of glued into place, I went through and I just spray painted it with a paint primer, gray spray paint. And then I kind of weathered spots. It's hard for you to see, but I kind of dirtied up the snow, like people had been, you know, muddying up these certain areas right on these spots here that I kind of carved out to make little landings. One thing about, if you're going to spray paint destroys styrofoam, and eats it up. So I was able to do that because I was kind of careful, and I stayed away, and anything that kind of got eaten up, it really didn't matter because it just kind of looked like the mountain. But if you do something like that, just be mindful of the fact that styrofoam you can disintegrate it with spray paint. And then I just kind of added a little bit on the sides here just for a little more ambiance or whatever. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the project. So, you know, you start at your base camp and you kind of move up the mountain, you know, and you can have your little guys on different landings. This came with purple pieces, so that was kind of nice. Just to the earlier point, so, you know, so, oh, and then the yellow zone, you can also tell for that, not just the weather, but also how many people are allowed to be on those points. Like you can see up here, you know, only one person can be on the roof here, on the roof, on the top of the mountain here, the summit. That's what the word I was looking for. My vocab is not so good today. So yeah, so that's K2. Okay, so over a little hindsight future sight. I already mentioned the fact that of the styrofoam mess. Another thing, you know, these are great for the game, but you know, obviously, it'd be nicer to have actual pieces. There's a company that Marks figures, very famous for having. I looked into some of them. They're pretty pricey because they don't make them anymore, but they're like miniature. You know, they're like, they make the kind of the cowboy and Indian sets or the army men sets. So they had like an Arctic Explorers one, and I would have to. There was only like one or two guys in there that would work, but that's something I would have liked to have done and had more accurate representation of climbers, or if I could find minis that were made for the purpose, I would have liked to have done that. So that's something I would like to do if I were to expand this a little more. The two biggest things I would like to do, though, I don't own an airbrush, and I don't know how to use an airbrush really. I've never really tried, but I wanted to put a piece of plexiglass back here and kind of airbrush like you see people at the fair or whatever, even spray paint, if I could have done it properly. But I would have liked to have added that, have a little sky, and then maybe put a little box on the top to put the weather up there so you can kind of see it up there. One thing I want to mention before I forget, this version will only support up to 3 players. You just cannot fit enough people, around this like you could a board. You could put, up to, it goes up to 5 players. You really can't. You can only do up to 3 players because the board you can't all sit in front of the mountain. There's just no real other way I could have done it. So 3 players max. So that's another thing. And also, if you watch the other videos I do, I like to have everything out and ready to be played. I have these little white boxes. I would have liked to have put them, you can find them pretty much anywhere, kind of put them in here on this areas so that you could store all your pieces right on there and just kind of pull them out. The other thing is, I would have liked to also done a little standee, maybe a magnetized board that for the victory points, which you can see this part of the board here. I would have liked to have maybe copied that and just had a little standee here and magnetized it so you could put, so that everybody could easily see. So those are just a couple things I would have done differently. I do think I am pretty happy with the way that this came out as it is, as a mountain. It was a lot of work to do this and to tie these off and to stamp and fix and I should have mentioned I kind of dusted the snow on to try to make it more natural. I sprayed okay, so there's 2 things. I did 2 different things and I've kind of oscillated back and forth between which of these is the better way to do it. But you can kind of dissolve some glue in a bunch of water and brush it on something and then dust this stuff on, which I kind of did. And then I also did like an Elmer spray, so I kind of spray that around and then dust it. So I did a little bit of both, and I'm not sure which was more effective. That the Elmer's spray glue will leave a sort of a residue, and it will dull things. But on this, I don't think you can tell. But on another project, you may. So I think maybe I should have done. If I do it in the future, I'll do that. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Like I said, I would have liked to add more elements of the game. Although it was very difficult to. I had to take the board and really map out. It seems very easy, but it was actually quite kind of a challenge to figure out exactly where each thing would be and on which level. I did a lot of planning and drawing out of because if you're looking at this map, I mean, you're like, oh yes, well of course these spaces here. Well then you have to figure out on what level you're gonna, because it doesn't match perfectly. So you have to kind of, so I had to just kind of connect all the pieces and then try to figure out where I would put it on the board. It was a bit of, that was probably one of the biggest logistical things, was just figuring out how to make all the things fit. Maybe that seems easy, but if you sit down and try to do it, you're like, wow, that was actually probably the biggest challenge to the whole project. I think maybe was to, and then to carve those spots out well and make them look kind of different. But yeah, but I'm pretty happy with it. So maybe I'll add those other things in the future. Put a little tent there. Cat hair again. Okay. Thanks for